Chapter 10, Minor Intervals. Any major interval can be changed to a minor interval by contracting its intervallic distance by 1/2 step. Keep in mind that only the major intervals, that is the major second, the major third, the major sixth, and the major seventh, can be transformed into minor intervals. There's no such thing as a minor unison, a minor fourth, or a minor fifth, or a minor octave. So don't try to turn those perfect intervals into minor intervals. Consider the major third interval above C, as shown here. To build the major third above C, we place a note a third higher, and then make sure that the accidentals, if any, conform to the key signature of C major. By looking at the keyboard here, it's apparent that the major third interval can also be defined as the distance of 4 half steps, and that can be quite useful when building major third intervals. Now, to make the interval of the minor third, we must reduce this to the distance of 3 half steps. There are 2 ways to do this. We can either lower the top note by a half step, or we can raise the bottom note by a half step. First, we'll try lowering the upper note by a half step. The distance from C to E flat is a minor third because it spans 3 letters of the musical alphabet, C, D, E, and it covers the distance of 3 half steps, as shown here. Likewise, by raising the lower note of the original major third interval, we can see that the distance from C sharp to E is also a minor third. It also spans 3 letters of the musical alphabet, and it covers the distance of 3 half steps. All of the major intervals can be transformed into minor intervals in this way. As another example, consider the major sixth above A. To transform this into a minor sixth, we need to contract its intervallic size by 1/2 step. Either lowering the top note a half step or raising the bottom note a half step can do this. Just keep in mind that any interval of the sixth must span 6 letters of the musical alphabet, A, B, C, D, E, F in this case, and it must look like a sixth on the staff. Now, both possibilities of these minor sixth intervals are shown here. Here, the major sixth interval was turned into a minor sixth interval by taking the highest note, F sharp, and bringing it down a half step. Note that the interval still spans the basic interval of a sixth, as you can see on the staff, but now it is smaller. It has been reduced, condensed by a half step. And in the second example that's shown here, the F sharp was retained, stayed the same, but the lower note, the A, was raised to A sharp. Again, the effect was that the interval was condensed by a half step, but the interval on the staff still retains its intervallic distance of the sixth. You should check your understanding 10.1 to try to make some major intervals into minor intervals. You should also check your understanding 10.2. In these examples, you'll be altering the bottom note by raising it 1/2 step. Major and minor thirds. As discussed earlier, the major third is comprised of 4 half steps, and the minor third is comprised of 3 half steps. Both the major and the minor third require the span of 3 letters of the musical alphabet. And when you write it on the staff, a third always goes from a line to a line or a space to a space. It is possible to write and recognize major and minor thirds by memorizing the qualities of all the natural thirds, that is, all those thirds that do not require any accidentals. You should play these thirds on a keyboard and count the half-step distances of each to confirm that they have been labeled correctly. Here's the first one pictured. The major third starts on a C and goes to an E. If I count the half steps, by the way, when I count half steps, don't say 1 until you go to the next half step because you're counting distances. 1 half step, 2, 3, 4. So that is a major third. The next one starts on D. Watch me count. 1, 2, 3 up to the F. So that is a minor third, just as it's labeled. The next one, E, going up to G. Watch me count. 1, 2, 3. That's a minor third. The next one starting on F, counting up 1, 2, 3, 4. That's a major third. And the one starting on G, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's a major third. The one starting on A, 1, 2, 3. That's a minor third. And the one starting on B, 1, 2, 3. That's also a minor third. So the order, if you write these thirds, as I did on the staff, just going up like that, major third, minor third, minor third, major third, major third, minor third, minor third. And of course, if you keep going, it'd be just like the beginning again, major third. Another way to see this is that on the keyboard, there are two spots where there's no black note in the middle. So, see, this is the major third, but if you go to the one starting on D, you are traversing that spot on the keyboard where there's no black note. So with the missing note, it's a smaller interval. Same thing here, no black note, so it's a smaller interval. All the black notes are there. It's a bigger interval, major third. All the black notes are there. It's a major third. Oh, it's no black note there, so it's only 3 half steps, minor third. Same thing here. So sometimes just visualizing these thirds on the keyboard helps you to know whether they would be major thirds or minor thirds. With a little effort, you can memorize the qualities of the natural thirds. And this will make it quite easy to write or recognize any third that you encounter. For example, if you have memorized that the distance from D up to F is a minor third, you can easily deduce the quality of the interval from D to F, regardless of what accidentals have been placed in front of those notes. Remember, if the same change has been applied to both the bottom and the top notes, the interval quality remains the same, as shown here. Even when the top and bottom pitches have been altered in different ways, it will be possible to deduce the quality of the interval by keeping track of the number of half steps. As you can see in this first example from D to F, which we're memorizing that to be a minor third, it's got 3 half steps. In the second example, you can see that the bottom note has been lowered. It's almost like taking the floor, if you think of this as the floor and this as the ceiling, and lowering the floor to D flat, then it's bigger, in this case 4 half steps, and makes this interval from D flat to F a major third. Return to the original, D to F, and take the example where the upper note has been raised. That's like raising the ceiling up. This increases the size of the interval here and makes it 4 half steps. So from D to F sharp would be a major third. So it's easy, if you've memorized that that's a minor third, it's easy to see that's a major third. It's easy to see that that must be a major third. You should try Check Your Understanding 10.3 by naming some third intervals as quickly as you can using this little shortcut method.